For those of you who have a GameCube, I'm sure you've all noticed that the games were kind of catering towards a younger generation. Not all of them, but a pretty big majority of them. And I find that this game, through its simplicity and its cartoony look, kind of sum up a lot of what the GameCube had as a whole. But before we get into the gameplay and my rating and stuff, let's go through the whole review.
Graphics.
The graphics are much similar to that of Super Smash Bros. Melee, and by the look of the menus you can tell that it's made by the same company, and that's because it is. The levels are very well laid out, and although there is only a few levels, about 9 racetracks in the game and a couple other things, they all look different from each other, and they all give a great feel for the Kirby universe. They don't feel like they just needed a level to look like that. Kirby's sprite looks great, Meta Knight looks cool as always, DDD is still funny looking. Not too much to say, but for last generation, it's absolutely amazing.
Audio.
The audio, again, not too much new here. Sounds great, very clear, the voices are good. Every racetrack has their own music track for it. And they're all pretty catchy and pretty listenable. If you may not like one, you can still enjoy it to some extent. So, all in all, it's very good.
Story.
From now on, I'm going to start doing story before gameplay, because I think gameplay is more important, and I'll save it for the end. But, frankly, this game has no story. Done. Okay, well, I can't just leave it there. I guess I can talk about the replay value. For replay value, it runs this thing called a checklist system, and every game type has about 120 challenges to complete your checklist. And majority of them involve things like beat a certain lap on a certain level in a certain amount of time, or beat a track in a certain amount of time, or copy the same ability 3 times. Basically achievements on your standard Xbox or anything like that. I find it quite fun, actually. There's only one I've actually gotten all 120 for.
Gameplay.
And now, for a very, very, very awesome section, the gameplay. To start, the gameplay is amazingly simple. You automatically accelerate, and every other button on the controller is brake, besides the D-pad and the start button. So, this means the game sucks, right? Wrong. It's actually really fun. The simplistic nature of this game makes it really easy to play, but really hard to master. Mainly because since everyone can kind of be on equal ground, it's really hard to master. If you ever play on the hardest difficulty, you actually will get your butt kicked. Even if you could beat a level flawlessly, you know, just get through it really fast, it's still really, really hard. Some of the challenges even are really, really hard. But we gotta go through the 3 different main game types. First, we have AirRide. This is your standard game. You go around for usually about 3 laps and you try to win. Simple. Top Ride is more arcade style. It's like a top-down racer. You kind of go around. There's only 2 vehicles you can use in this mode, though. The Freestar, which allows you to just... your car will turn based on wherever you point the joystick. And the Steer Star, which for me, which I like a lot more, because it's based off wherever your car is facing. You can just hit right and left, and wherever your car is facing will turn like that. And finally, we have City Trial. Basically, you go around this made-up city that's never existed in any other Kirby game before, and it happens to have everything imaginable that a city could have. A volcano right next to a forest, and a 4-level launch pad, and it's a little cartoony, but the idea is solid. You drive around getting new vehicles to drive, which they call stars in this game, which kind of makes sense because it's the Warp Star. Get it? Yeah. And you're upgrading them with new stats like boost ability, charging, top speed, turning, normal stuff like that. And this is cool because a lot of the vehicles don't have good turning, but now they can have mildly good turning. And some cars may not be that fast, but now you can make them pretty fast. It's pretty useful. And then you take on your opponents in different mini games, sort of, with the car that you've made, such as destruction derbies or flying for distance or taking on good old King Dedede. it's pretty fun because it kind of also adds a little bit of a gamble into it. Sometimes you want to just, you know, collect a certain star because maybe you want to go really fast, but you don't know what game they're going to play. You kind of want to make yourself really fast, but then it turns out you're doing a destruction derby where you don't want the speed as much. Kind of adds a whole new strategy to the game. So I think that's really, really interesting, and I love playing City Trial mode. I think it's about time that I go through the few stars you can unlock in the game, though, because it's a pretty big factor. Obviously, the idea came from the idea of Kirby's warp star. And there's so many different stars in the game. There's like the Swerve Star, which is my favorite, actually. There's the Wing Star, which is able to fly farther. The Dark Star, which does more damage when you hit people. The Slick Star, which is fast but can't turn as easily. The Wagon Star, that can't boost. The Formula Star, that can go really fast and can't turn. And there's so much more. And they all have their own strengths and weaknesses. It's very, very interesting to see how many different stars there are. And there isn't really one that you will say is the best star for the race. And it really adds such a cool dimension when you can get these legendary items in the race. If you've played Super Smash Bros. Brawl, I'm sure you've picked up the pieces to build the Dragoon and KO somebody. Well, this is the game that it came from. The Dragoon and the Hydra, which hasn't been in any other game, you build them as you're playing City Trial. And that's what's really, really exciting. Because you're trying to grab these items and you can build this ultimate car, and these cars will win practically every race. It's really, really fun because kind of like in Brawl, if you ever tried fighting for it, it's the same situation except way harder because these things don't show up that close together. All in all, it's a great game. I love City Trial. It's really fun. You really have to play with friends to get it, but it's really, really fun. I highly suggest playing it if you got a lot of friends and you can get your hands on it, which wouldn't be that hard. The game's not that hard to find. I give it a 4 out of 5. It's a great pick up and play racer and has a lot of opening for mastery.